Yeah, okay, so the first movie we're going to review here is True History of the Kelly Gang. Available, I think, now for a couple weeks, at least 1 week. It came out the same time as Bad Education, the week of Bad Education. I think we watched Bad Education a week late, too. Our schedules are crazy because we have to deal with... We work with independent people the most, and not the... I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, this is directed by Justin Kurzel and written by Sean Grant. As the title suggests, this is a story about the Kelly Gang and Ned Kelly. But despite what the title says, it is not true at all. It's actually the first thing that the movie says. It says everything you're about to see is not true. And it's actually kind of cute because they're like, what you're about to see is not true. And then everything fades out except the true. And then it says True History of the Kelly Gang.
That's cool.
It's a nice little wordplay. Yeah. This is based on a novel by Peter Carey, which, from what I've read, I didn't read the book, but I've read things about the book, is the book is equally laxed on the facts. And this film takes a more fantastical approach to the story and the outlaw romantics of Ned Kelly. So, have you ever heard the name Ned Kelly before?
Yeah, I do know. I don't know, like, everything about Ned Kelly, but I saw his armor, and I was like, tell me more. So, I do know a bit about him.
I didn't know jack going into this. Apparently, Ned Kelly, after his execution in the 1870s, has become, like, a folklorish figure, you know, something like our own Robin Hood or Bonnie and Clyde, that sort of thing. Except, you know, I got more John Brown vibes from him. John Brown, the abolitionist who took over Harper's Ferry and killed a couple of people and then got himself executed. It's just, he was a roguish dude, and, you know, this is a movie that puts plain out. It says plain out that, you know, he was a weird guy, and these are a weird situation. But I mean, while it does put blame on him in some different factors, it spends a great deal of time explaining and illustrating and visualizing all of the oppressive forces that sort of turned this, you know, this rough piece of coal or stone into a dime, or, you know, a bloody diamond, I guess. Isn't Blood Diamond? That's a movie.
That's
right?
a movie, yeah.
Blood Diamond. Yeah, it sounds like a movie. So, like I was saying earlier, Ned Kelly was this outlaw. You know, he was a bushranger, and he was the leader of a bushranger gang. And in Australia, he and his family were Irish, and thanks to British colonialism, they were sent down under to Australia. I've just
I come from a land down under.
Right. And, you know, they're sort of the bottom of the barrel, you know, the proverbial bottom of the barrel. The mom is abused by the British sergeant who oversees them, who's played by Charlie Hunnam, who's increasingly turning into one of my favorite actors working today, along with somebody we're going to talk about in How to Build a Girl, my next film that we're reviewing as well. But, oh my god, what was I talking about? I totally blanked.
You were talking about S.E. Davis's character, Ellen Kelly.
Yes, so S.E. Davis, who is the wife of the director, is the mom, and she has a bunch of kids, and the first part of the movie is broken up in 3 parts. Sorry, I'm all discombobulated. Let me regroup here. The movie is broken up into 3 parts: childhood, adulthood, and then, you know, it's usually in that kind of structure it would be the end of somebody's life when they're older. But, you know, Ned Kelly was executed when he was 25, so we're getting to the end, right? The grand finale, his mental deterioration and, you know, the violence that comes with it. But the mom plays an important role all throughout. You know, this is not just a movie about... This is not as simple a story as Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Right. This is not as simple a story as Bonnie and Clyde, though you can easily make the case that Bonnie and Clyde is a lot more about bank robbers. This is a movie about oppression. This is a movie about Australia. It is also about family, and it's about class, right? So the most heartbreaking thing that happens in this movie is that Ned Kelly is seen time and time again, especially at a young age, trying to get out. And like I said earlier, his family is the bottom of the barrel, right? Because of his namesake, and because of everything that is going up against him, he is not able to achieve anything. He goes as high up as he can, which isn't high at all. Becomes friends with like a constable or something, right? That's the most that he gets. But he's immediately kicked back down to the bottom, and he gets really rooted in his family, and that's an aspect of this movie that I really appreciated. Because like I said earlier, like even though you can make a story that outlines just the events of the Ned Kelly gang, right, it spends a significant amount of time in the establishment era of his life, what got him to this period. In fact, the film is at its best during this time, and I'm a little disappointed to report that I think it loses a little bit of steam once George McKay shows up. George McKay, who's playing Ned Kelly, and it isn't even when he first shows up. It's more the third chapter when we start getting into the Kelly gang period of his life that things start to buzz down. Like, it doesn't pick up the steam, and the story isn't as fluid as it was earlier on. But it's not really too much of a complaint because the rest of the movie is really superb. The performances are all around fantastic. Going from George McKay to Essie Davis and Charlie Hunnam, who we've already talked about. Orlando Schwartz, who played young Ned Kelly in the the entirety of the first chapter, and then pops up occasionally, be it flashback, whatever, in the other two. But you also have Russell Crowe in this movie, who plays this sort of another roguish figure who sort of teaches Ned Kelly's first look into this sort of lifestyle. Yeah, there's a lot to admire here, and the movie, like I said earlier, it's not entirely factual. Apparently, one part of Ned Kelly's identity is his big fluffy beard, so much so that has become like an icon or a central image of Australia, along with his armor, the armor being what he wore going into his final gun battle with authorities. It was a bulletproof vest in the 1870s. It's kind of impressive.
Right.
I like this movie a lot, and I can also understand why a lot of people didn't. This is I don't want to call it expressionistic, but I think it is experimental in certain degrees, especially towards the end of the second, once Ned Kelly starts to embrace this more evil side of his life, or what his destiny is what he calls it. He considers this to be where he was going to end up anyway. Being a Kelly like his mom and his dad before him. It's almost poetic, and it visually is poetic in the sense that there's George McKay starts acting really physically towards the end, and it's almost like his insanity. He is described as a madman at the end of the film, but like his anger and his anxieties and all of these things that are curdling inside him start fermenting out of his skin. He starts getting really violent, but like not with like a gun, but like, you know, slamming his head kind of thing. And it also, the film itself does really interestingly things in terms of its cinematography, with like flashing lights. The final gun battle, I think, might be a little too much, and there are times where the visual style, while like consistently impressive, even when it's not doing or not trying to portray emotions, is interesting. Sometimes I think it does go a little too far, as does the acting. This wasn't enough, like, that's not enough to take me away from everything that was going on. I was expecting this to be like the sort of, you know, guns drawn, barrel. Man, never mind. Okay, I've been watching a lot of wrestling. Right? And I'm listening to Ric Flair and The Rock spill out their, you know, their limousine ride and whatever, all that stuff, and I try to do it and I just can't. Okay, I really gotta stop. But I was expecting this to be like a really bloody affair, right? There you go. There's a normal phrase. I was expecting this to be like a really bloody and gritty story, and there is, like, violence is a part of this, but like I was explaining earlier, this movie really is about a lot more. Shoot, let me slow down. This movie really is about a lot of other things as well, you know, and you also got to deal with Ned's identity as well, sexual, personal, and that sort of thing. I really like this movie a lot. I'm gonna give it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Awesome.